We really want to discover in this session whether that big company experience kills or kindles innovation.
Innovation in general is fundamentally different than many of the previous ways in which firms go about doing business. And looking in the data, we see that the returns to innovation are highly skewed. A handful of products are the one responsible for the vast majority of returns. And if you look at the top 10% return in terms of venture capital, you see that they account for the vast majority of payoffs. If you look at the top 10% return in terms of patenting output, you see that they account for the vast majority of payoffs. And operating in this environment is something that is fundamentally different to many companies.
Our basic strategy is always to take an invention to what we call an enduring franchise. We have a set of rules about how that's done. And so even in some of the most mature products we have, like Post-it notes or Scotch tape or things like that, we constantly innovate. You must constantly innovate to bring new features, new science, new benefits, lower cost to the marketplace. Of course, you should cannibalize your own products, because if you don't, somebody else is going to. And we reckon that the number we use is you need around 30% turnover in your core products. You cannibalize, you have to eat your own old. I mean, that's the way that the sort of product portfolio is kept fresh. My argument is that it's the place you know most about the technology, the competition, the marketplace. It's where you should always begin. So we tend to look at our innovation as being near adjacencies and sort of almost like a pebble dropping in a pond and ripples pass out. This is the way we think about it. So we are rarely completely unfamiliar with something that we do. Great programs always come from great cause. They're not just purely accidental. That's so rare that you could never manage a company long-term by having that kind of philosophy. Reinforce the core, continue to it, and then ultimately and occasionally you will discover these big programs that can change the way your company is.
If you are a company that is compelled or forced to do something different from what you are today. Look at any food company in the world that makes people fat, and you've got a very short life. Look at if you're an analog business and all of a sudden the world's gone digital. If you're a massive polluter of the world and all of a sudden sustainability and being green is a future, then you are compelled and forced to do things that you are fundamentally unfamiliar with doing. This obsession that everybody has with uncovering a new need, with uncovering a new consumer insight is important. It's as important to you as it is to me, as it is to anybody in business. But the consumer insight, in truth, isn't anywhere near as important as the intersection between that and the commercial insight. And the commercial insight just being simply the definition of how a company will execute something and profit from it. It is, in fact, much easier to delight a consumer with a new idea than it is to get a company to do something it's just unfamiliar with doing. And if you don't solve for both problems, it becomes very, very, very problematic.
Well, today there are 5 billion mobile phones out there in the world, and many of those are in the hands of people who have previously been invisible to service providers. And we believe that sort of touch point with consumers at great scale actually provides a good basis for delivering quite innovative, radical new services. And we're following a model which has been set by a product I developed when I was at Vodafone called M-Pesa. The typical consumer wouldn't be somebody who'd normally be approached by a bank or by a financial service provider of any type. There were typically no credit history, no fixed address sometimes, but they had a phone in their hands. And so we built a very simple virtual wallet that allowed consumers to load cash in, send money via their phone to somebody else, and they could cash it out. Today in Kenya, more than half the adult population use this product.
And the total R&D budget of General Motors during the 80s was about $40 billion. The venture capital industry as a whole invested only $28 billion at the time. General Motors scored a negative $90 billion. The venture capital community scored a positive $17 billion. VCs run a portfolio, and they cherry pick the winners, and they sponsor that, which is very different than many large corporations' traditional top-down mandating one or two ventures as opposed to seeding 1,000 flowers, if you wish. It's also being able to tie out different individuals, different talent pools that might not have been engaged otherwise. It might be retired engineers, where we have a big population of them coming up. It might be that hacker sitting down. And so embracing this thinking, I think, will be important, and more open innovation strategies help you to harness these two observations.
I think there's a difference there between the sort of control and the governance that goes on in a large organization and the ability to move quickly and to pivot quickly out there in the marketplace, which you need to do to find the opportunity. And I think there's something in that giving individuals and teams the space in large corporates, which is it's easily said, but it's very difficult to do in reality because the pressure is on all the time for short-term delivery. And what we've done in Signal Point is to say, okay, look, we've raised enough money to go out and do some damage, and let's go out and play a little bit and see where we get to.
The single biggest barrier to developing breakthrough work is the fact that the person doing that job is in that job for 2 or 3 years before they, in fact, then get another job or they get promoted inside their organization. And most organizations, innovations, disruptive innovations, take place over much longer periods of time than I'm actually in my job, and I'm rewarded and incented on the results that I'm going to produce in the right now. What's elegant about George's company is that DNA, is that innovation has always been in the DNA of the business. It has been at Starwood. It has clearly been at Apple. It has clearly been at Google. But in most organizations, it isn't part of the DNA. There's just no organizational sync, organizational fit to actually allow it and to incent it to actually take place in the first place.
We do incentive. We have a measure that incentivizes innovation. People are paid on the rate of innovation in our company. We also pursue a couple of different things. First of all, in the company in the last few years, we hold people in positions much longer. And junior people are held in positions typically much longer. More senior, sometimes you get moved around for development reasons. But we thread across, we follow that innovation, even though someone may have moved. But usually when there's a really key program that's running through, we will not let people move until that program is finished.